Hello, welcome to the Pike County Pulpit Podcast. It has been a few weeks since we've made an episode. To say that I've been busy is an understatement. It has been insanely busy for my family and for our church. My wife gave birth to our third child about a week and a half ago. His name is Edmund Russell Johnston. So our third born child, our second son, and thankfully, praise be to the Lord that my wife and our son is doing very well. But as anyone that has children knows, those first few weeks are rough. The lack of sleep, the up and downs, and all the attention required for a newborn, and as well as just life in general with ministry. As we're preparing for our 150th anniversary here at Detroit, here in just a couple weeks, and then camp season is upon us. There's so many things, so many things. And the busyness of this season is what sparked the thought of this episode. I need to, I don't know if I want to say recant or rephrase or change something I've said. And a few weeks ago, a few episodes ago, we talked about sermon preparation, and I mentioned that I have always handwritten my sermons. A few times I tried a tablet, didn't work, and that for the last 6 months or so, I had been using Logos and using a tablet and doing the slideshow and all those things. Well, I am no longer using that system. I have gone back to the handwritten model, and I'm going to briefly tell you why. The I think the need to use the software came because when I came to this church, the music was on a screen and they would put scripture on the screen. So they were kind of used to that. I had never used that before. And I thought, well, if we're going to use this, I might as well be able to control it from the pulpit instead of relying on the sound men, because they do sometimes have a hard time knowing where I'm going, but I know where I'm going, hopefully, so it's easier for me to do it. And I thought if I can use Logos and make it simpler, it's even better and make it look very nice. So it worked really well until it didn't. Now, I don't blame Logos. I don't blame OpenLP. I don't even blame my Samsung tablet. I just blame relying on too many things to make it flow. Um, we started having several issues where the tablet would just lag and just not keep up, and I would lose control. And twice I had it where the tablet completely went blank. I lost my notes and the slideshow, because there were times that I would just lose the slideshow and the sound guy would do his best to keep up and I'd keep going. But what happened twice then was I lost everything, and I'm going by memory, and the sound guy's still able to keep up, but I'm flying blind. And I realized this isn't working very well. And then we had a service that went extra long. We had extra prayer time and several things that went on. And I'm like, man, I don't want to preach for a long time because I already can tell the service has gone on. I want it to kind of get to the point quicker and wrap it up. Well, when you're relying on a slideshow in order, it's hard to trim anything out of it on the fly. So I just began noticing this is not working so well. It works when it works, but when it doesn't, boy, are you handicapped. So just so happened around this time, I'd taken 2 Sundays off. My wife was due to have the baby, so the baby was a little bit late. So a couple Sundays I didn't preach, and we had a guest speaker that came in, and when he preached, I was refreshed with his preaching. And at risk of sounding proud, it reminded me of how my preaching used to be. My preaching used to be simpler and easier. And this gentleman just got up, he read the text, explained the text, applied the text, locked eyes with the people, made his case, and we were done. And I thought, that's how it used to be, and that's how it ought to be. That's how people preached in the New Testament, it's how they preached in church history, and it's only in the last few years that we've complicated preaching. And I used to make fun of guys doing what I was doing now with the PowerPoints and all this stuff. I always used to say a PowerPoint belongs to a guy that can't tell stories or can't make illustrations or can't preach. And you need to be a wordsmith. You need to know what to do with your words instead of relying on visuals. And I used to make fun of guys doing what I was now doing. And then I'm sitting there thinking, this was better. The people responded to this. So then I go prepared for the next sermon, and I get out my computer and I'm typing my notes, and I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing this today. I got out my old legal pads and my fountain pen, and I just wrote my notes like I always had, but instead of transferring it to Logos, Took a little piece of copy paper, folded it in half, and I wrote my sermon out the way I used to do it. And instead of a slideshow, all I did was put the scripture in slides on the screen where the sound guy can control it. It's just one portion of scripture. It's not hard to keep up with. It's just there, and I have to add nothing else to the screen. No fancy background, just a blue black background with white letters, just simple. But the scripture is on the screen for those that need it, and people can follow along in their Bibles. And even my sermon, I used to say this, and I'm back to saying this. I used to say, how can I expect the people to remember what I said if I don't remember what I want to say? A preacher shouldn't have to go to the pulpit with pages and pages of notes. Now, I know many good preachers that are manuscript preachers and transcribed preachers. But the way I had always done my sermons up till lately was I would just agonize all week and have notes and notes and notes and just swim around in all this information to where it's in my mind and my heart. So now I just am condensing everything to one page. And it's just bullet points with brief statements that remind me of the bigger points. And they're just there to keep you grounded. In fact, you don't really need them. If you remember your sermon well enough and you're staying in the text, you shouldn't really need it. It's just there to keep you grounded if you lose your place or forget how you want to word something, or a scripture reference. That's most common what I need my notes for is I want to make a reference, but where was that verse? Oh, it's in Ephesians. It's over here. So I went back to that and I went to the pulpit, and here's what I found. I could skip around. I could lock eyes with the people and go, they didn't get what I just said. I need to say that again differently. Before, I'm glued to my tablet and my Bible, and I'm just going through my slides, and for all I know, they're fighting or having a gambling session in the back row. I wouldn't know. I'm glued to the stuff in front of me. So now I'm actually able to read the room and make the adjustments needed. And it was refreshing. I did have a few people that said, well, we kind of missed the slideshow. It was kind of nice. I'm like, something else that I noticed, we just had a baby. I am busy. I spent a third of the time preparing the sermon that I did when I was making the slideshow and everything else. So I am going back to simplified preaching because it has always worked, and I believe it still works. I am not going to make any bold statements like you should not use PowerPoint, you should not have manuscripted notes, and that I won't even say I'll never do it again. I'm just saying I did it for 6 months. It worked when it worked, and now I'm back to doing it the old school way. And there is such beauty and simplicity. All those, I enjoy it so much more. And our people, I think, enjoy simple preaching. That doesn't mean ignorant preaching. That doesn't mean shallow preaching. It just means make it simple so they can understand and they can know what to do with it. So there's an update. If you follow our sermons, you'll see from, I don't know, October up until a few weeks ago, the old sermons that are archived will have all the production. But as of a few weeks ago now, we're back to the old way of doing it, simple preaching. Boy, I love it.